Hello, welcome to another episode of the Project Purple podcast. I'm Dino Verrelli, founder and CEO of Project Purple. We've got an exciting interview coming up with a very special guest who's traveled. Well, she hasn't traveled, but she's coming to us via Zoom from a very far location. I think the farthest location we've ever interviewed someone here on the Project Purple podcast. So I'm really excited for this. But we've got a few quick updates. Since 2010, we've contributed over $4 million and counting to pancreatic cancer research efforts. We've also allocated over $1 million worth of aid to more than 1,500 patients and families through our patient aid programs. Your monthly or one-time gift can improve patients' lives through research and assistance programs. You can donate now at projectpurple.org. Pancreatic cancer does not rest, and neither will we. Your support is truly appreciated. If you're looking to get involved in one of our events, whether that means joining a run team, participating in a virtual run walk, group fitness, golf, or anything else you can think of, visit projectpurple.org/events to learn more. And wherever you listen to podcasts, please make sure to follow the Project Purple podcast. We just surpassed 150,000 downloads or listens. I don't know which one is correct. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All our episodes go up on our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch them versus listen to them, you can always watch them on YouTube. And without further ado, let's meet our special guest. As I said in the opening, we were talking a little bit before we hit record. I think this is the farthest guest that we've ever had on the Project Purple podcast. I know we've had someone, I've got to do some research after this, but we've had guests from Australia, but we have coming to us all the way, say all the way, like I say that often on the podcast, but this is a far distance, from Johannesburg, South Africa, pancreatic cancer survivor, Carmen Stewart. Welcome to the Project Purple podcast.
Hi, Dina. Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, we're excited to have you. Like I said, the team preps me high level, so I'm excited to hear your story. And this is something I know we were talking after COVID. This podcast really grew. Its viewership, its listeners, and the audience. And I think this is just amazing and wild. I'm drawing a blank for the adjective to use here, where we can bring someone on from a far, far place like South Africa to us here in the States, to tiny little Seymour, Connecticut, to be on the podcast is just this is where I think I always try to look at the positives. There's the positive of social media, which, we have to look at. And then also the positives of technology, especially in this day and age, to be able to connect with people from around the globe, with this mission of a world without pancreatic cancer. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic off to you. I know I mentioned this in our pre-talk here before we hit record. This is really your opportunity to kind of share your journey. We hope that your friends and family will listen to this and they know you pretty well, but we've got a pretty vast audience. So this will hopefully be their first time hearing your story and your experience with pancreatic cancer. With that, the microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you. So in November 2019, I started getting really bad pains. The doctors would just say that I had gastroenteritis.
Oh, wow.
And so they just kept on brushing it off. And then in, I think it was February or March. Yeah, it was the beginning of March. My eyes started going yellow. And then I went back to the GP and he said to me, it's probably hepatitis. And then I carried on having the pains and whatnot. And so he did the test for hepatitis and they came back negative. Then he sent me in for a scan and they found that there was a mass. So I went to a surgeon and then the surgeon looked at the scan and then booked me in. And then when he opened me up, he saw that there was a growth on my pancreas. So he took a scraping, and what happened was that the growth actually went over one of my bile ducts, and that's why I actually went yellow. That was actually it was a blessing in disguise. Then then he called me back to his rooms. He got the results back, and then he said that the cells on the surface was atypical. So he couldn't tell me if it was cancerous or not. And then he like said to me, so if we go in to take this out, you must understand it's going to be a big scar, and because of the Whipple's procedure. And then he explained like how it would, you'd have to cut out like a box.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's book it. I don't like foreign objects in my body.
Yeah.
And because he still said to me, no, maybe go home and discuss it with your family and see what they say. And I'm like, no, I want this out. And I want it out before, because that was just before COVID hit us in South Africa. So we booked the date for the 1st of April, 2020. And on the day that I arrived there, it was like complete lockdown. So my husband at the time had to drop me off in the parking lot of the hospital, and I had to walk in by myself. I had no support whatsoever. I was all on my own. Yeah, so it was a hectic time.
So that was the very beginning of like the COVID restrictions, because you said March. I know here, I think it was like the second week or third week, or going into that third week. It was like that transition from the second to third week where things stopped. But I think then like a week later, everything was like locked down.
Yeah.
So like end of March. So yeah, that would kind of make sense with the timeline. But so then you had all of this testing and everything prior to any of those stoppages. So you go from like the normalcy of like, hey, you're going in for diagnostics, you're getting checked up, and then boom, now, okay, your husband drops you off and you got to walk in alone to have this major surgery.
Yeah. Yeah. Then so then I went in. And at that stage as well, there wasn't a lot of communication between the hospital and my family because of the whole COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went in, the op was like 7 hours that I was in for. But before I went in for the op, the surgeon said to me, listen, don't be surprised when you wake up that you'll probably be on a ventilator. You know, just have that in your mind. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to have the ventilator, but okay, thanks for letting me know. And then it went off for 7 hours. I came out. I didn't have to be on a ventilator, so that was a bonus. And then, but as I came out of, when the recovery, then the surgeon actually came up to me and he gave me a hug, and he's like, "We got everything. I got everything." And then he said to me that it was actually a miracle that he said that there was actually a cap that was over the tumor. So all those cells was encapsulated. So it didn't have a chance to spread anywhere. It was just in that cap. And then the tumor was on the head of my pancreas. So he had to remove half my pancreas, my duodenum colon, half my stomach. I had a previous op where they took my gallbladder out a while ago. So, yeah, and then, but I was like, yay, I'm so glad. And yeah.
So Carmen, let me pause here for a second. How old were you when this was all happening? Like 2019, 2020?
I was 41 or 42.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 41 at the time. Did anyone ever say like, I mean, so I want to back up too as well. You said you had these bad pains, they kind of gastroenteritis, but then when did you have your gallbladder removed? Do you remember?
It was maybe, so it's 42. I think I was 36 or 37 when I had that removed. Yeah.
So about
then,
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years prior, sort of 5 to 6 years prior.
Yeah.
So at that time, there was no concern. Why did you have your gallbladder removed? Because of like gallstones or pain?
Yeah, I had gallstones.
Okay.
And then I was also very overweight. You know, I've always struggled with my weight. My metabolism was like super slow, really, really slow. But there were signs before before the pain. It was like first I started getting nausea, just
Uh-huh.
random nausea. I call it my morning sickness because it just
Yeah.
hit me from. And then my hands and my feet started getting really itchy.
Which is a weird one. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'd get very, very
So
itchy.
when you say before, so was this like months before or like
Yeah,
years?
no, months before, about 6 months, just started. And then I did notice that my stool changed. It
Yeah.
went to like a sandy color. It was like, and I also started losing weight. So it was all, but it was very, very quick, the
Yeah.
changes I got. And then I would also, my urine also turned like black tea.
Yeah. So you experienced a lot of symptoms here. So there was nothing, that, and that's part of the frustration, though. I feel like, back pains or, like stomach pains, like, hey, I had ice cream over the weekend and I'm not supposed to eat ice cream, but, we,
Yeah.
we do a lot of things we're not supposed to do. And I was having like, GI issues,
Yeah.
which are common, right? And, the nausea, like you said, and being itchy, we've heard before, like rash stuff, like that's just like, you can get that from anything, right? Like just clothes, wearing the wrong type of clothing.
Yeah.
The weight loss is fascinating. I think that's one that like people kind of, if they're not like working out, we often
Yes.
hear people like trying to lose weight and they're losing like way too much weight. The
Yeah.
urine and the stool thing is kind of interesting because I think um those are really private and I don't think people they're not like cocktail discussions. Like, hey, you would ever have like, and I think that's something there's a lady that I've interviewed and she had stool issues and we she wrote a book, Poo in the Loo. She's in the
Yeah.
UK. So and it just talks about, just like, I mean, this isn't like off like topic, but like
Mm.
people's stool, they're like I, there's so much to learn from what we excrete and stool being like the biggest factor, right? And I've actually had serious conversations with some pharmaceutical companies. I mean, Cologuard is a colon that's based here in the United States where they actually take stool samples and they can tell if someone has colon cancer, right? So it's
Yeah.
fascinating. I mean, we've been doing this for animals, for our dogs and pets for like years, and
Yeah.
we haven't figured it out to do it with humans. I think in some aspects we have, but if there was like a smart toilet that could not only get rid of your stool
Yeah.
and your feces, but then also diagnose you.
Mm.
I think we'd find, and there's some fascinating data to this that, like your cells excrete, especially cancer cells excrete
Yeah.
that goes through the digestive process, right? So there potentially has been hypothetical or a hypothesis on this concept of actually like studying stool. I mean, during COVID, they were able to determine where high prevalence of COVID was here in the United States based on sewer, like on the sewers system, because they
Yeah.
were able to analyze, the waste that was coming out of certain geographical areas. So
Mm.
I think this is kind of an interesting topic, in early detection, but it's also important for people watching and listening. Um, you know, hindsight's always going to be 2020. I say that often here on the podcast, but now that we know, I think, 41 years old, you don't think like, hey, I'm going to get pancreatic cancer, right? Like, and that's where, again, going back to what I said in the beginning, like doing this podcast and showing faces of young people getting the disease is really, really powerful because this is the reality that we are in terms of, this is the disease. It is something that could impact someone young.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also it's like people need to listen to their bodies, and see
Yeah.
like that there's slight changes. I mean, the pains that I was getting, it felt like it was my pancreas, and I would say, but this pain feels like my pancreas. And because I was too young, you know, I didn't fall into that category of potentially having pancreatic cancer. And then it was just because my eyes turned yellow. that,
Which is usually like that's like the big fireworks that go off, that the light bulb moment for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Because like jaundice is usually like the last telltale sign, but also associated with like a blockage in the bile duct or in the pancreas, something going on there.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the surgery. So you come out, you're not on the vent. They
Mhm.
did the full Whipple. Great news that it was like encapsulated. I've heard this a couple times where surgeons, actually from surgeons, where they go in and like the tumors peel right off, or they're super encapsulated, so everything is like nothing's gone anywhere else.
Yeah.
Those are like, I think, ideal tumors from a surgical standpoint. So how was recovery, and did you have to do any chemotherapy or radiation post treatment?
Yeah. No, I did. I was in hospital for a week. And then I had to do physio in hospital, which
Yeah.
I hated because it was like, no, I have to. It's so weird though that you you take it for granted that you're able to just sit in an armchair for an hour. It was agonizing for me for that week to sit in an armchair. I would get so mad, but I knew it was obviously to make sure that I would get better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, then I had to do chemo. But so what happened was is that I was in hospital for a week, and then I went home, and there was I was supposed to get antibiotics, but somewhere along the line I didn't get the antibiotics, so I ended up back in ICU with septicemia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so but luckily they sorted it out. So
So how
yeah,
long were you back in the ICU?
another week.
Wow. So you came home for a day or two and then you had to go back?
Yeah, yeah, they pumped out about almost 2 liters of sepsis stuff coming out of my stomach.
Oh,
So it was actually funny when I arrived at the emergency. Um, the one of the nurses, because my stomach had blown up,
yeah.
so, like one of the nurses was like, "Oh, congratulations! Where's the baby?" I'm like, "No, chick, there's no baby." And then the other nurse like smacked her. It
Oh
was
my
almost like a
God.
comedy show.
Yeah, yeah. And this is going on during still with the COVID restrictions
Yeah,
too. So you're going in and out all by yourself.
yeah. And
Wow.
then I also like stuck that thing up my nose to.
Oh, the COVID swabs. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. To make sure
Yeah,
you didn't have COVID. Yeah, forget about
yeah,
that. Yeah, all the testing. It's crazy how short that was, but how we forget like all the between the
yeah,
plexiglass, the masks, the swabbing, and everything that was going on during that time. So you
yeah.
get out of that situation in ICU, and then do you start chemotherapy right away?
So I waited 4 weeks.
Okay,
Um,
for healing, probably.
Healing, yes, and then I also had to have a port put in because my
Yep.
veins was just a no go.
Yeah.
And to me, the port was the best thing. I would recommend doing a port. Don't, because the amount of times that people have collapsed veins, and the port was just the way to go, I think. So then I had the port put in, and then I did. I, I'm just trying to think now. I think I went for one session, and then I got COVID. Well, my whole family got COVID.
Oh, wow.
So then obviously I had to postpone the chemo because I was supposed to end my treatments in October, but then I only ended it on the 18th of December. That was my last chemo treatment. But no, but I was okay with the COVID. The only thing that happened was just like I lost my sense of smell and taste. That was
Yeah.
that was what happened.
Do you remember how many, so from April to December was really the kind of the time frame of all the treatment. How many did you do? 6 rounds of post chemo? They usually do like 5 or 6.
Um, to be honest, I think it was I think it was like 3 weeks on, then 3 weeks
3 weeks
off.
off. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Three and three. And
yeah.
how was chemo for you? Were you able to tolerate it, or did you have a hard time with it?
Um, I did have a hard time with it. But I did take some natural medication in between, which made, help me cope.
Yeah.
So
When you say natural, like CBD or
no, it's those it's Japanese mushrooms, the
oh, okay.
masala or something like that. It just helped boost my immune system because then
Yeah.
I didn't get those like sores in my mouth
Yeah.
because I thought these things weren't working. So I stopped taking it for a while and then I started getting the sores in my mouth. My hands started peeling. So then I
Yeah.
started taking it again and then those sores disappeared and my hands were fine again. So
So
yeah.
that was the Japanese mushrooms. That was the only thing that you did alternatively for like recovery and to
Yeah.
help you get through that. And was that
Yeah.
something that someone recommended or something that you researched on your own?
No, it was my mom's homeopath.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
December of 2020, you finish chemo and you're done. You get to ring do they ring the bell in South Africa?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all
Yes,
right.
I rang the
I don't mean to
bell.
sound like ignorant, but I didn't
No,
know
ring the
culturally. Oh,
bell.
awesome. So you got to ring the bell. What was that moment
Yeah.
like?
Uh, I was so happy. I was so happy. Um, and that I survived, you know, because a lot of people, they like, expect the worst type of a thing, but I didn't have that negativity around me. No, it's like, I didn't have a choice. It was, I'm going to survive. I've got my two goals. Um, but
How
there's
old are
one.
your girls?
My oldest is turning 20 in October, and then my youngest is 14.
So they were like 14, if we're talking, well, no, 16 and 10.
Yeah,
That's young.
no, it is. So they were petrified that they were going to lose me. So, and I'm glad that I'm here.
Yeah, well, we are as well.
Yeah.
So after ringing the bell, what's life been like? I mean, are they doing scans? I know here in the United States, it's usually like in the very beginning, it's like every 3 months for people. Sometimes it's every 6 months, then it moves to a year. So 2020, you're almost coming up on 5 years here in a couple of months. So like,
Yeah.
what's it been like?
So it was every 3 months that I'd have to do either the CT scan and then the
Yeah.
PET scan. And then it went to every 6 months. And now it's been every year up until now. I actually did my last PET scan last week and I'm clear still.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I know this is a topic that we talk about a lot here. And I guess I'll throw this in here with, especially with the scans. There's this thing called scanxiety, right? Like is like going in for that scans, being anxious before, waiting for the results. Um, we all know what the statistics are. I will preface this by saying, and I've said this often on the podcast, like I don't think the statistics are 100% accurate. So I think it's kind of a little egregious that some doctors speak to patients the way they do because the odds are what they are. But also, like, no doctor can tell a patient whether they're in this bucket or that bucket. But I think that the statistics aren't as accurate as we think they are. But that's another argument, another day. Is there anything that you have learned over the years here doing this that has helped that process of scanxiety, either before, during, or after?
Um, I think, the thing is that some people say that I'm a pessimist, but I look at it as like I'm a realist.
Yeah,
Um, if it comes back my results and they're not good, then it'll be like, okay, how will I deal with that? What will be my, the dealing process of like, okay, yes, I've got it again. Then I must do X, Y, and Z. But then if I'm perfect, then that's great. So I think the worst thing is like being blindsided for me. I don't like feeling blindsided. So be more prepared. But yeah, there's no other coping technique. It's just like go, go, go. Just go.
So how do you become more prepared then with something like that?
Well, I think
Just
it's, yeah, just coming to terms with what might happen. You got to be in reality that, yes, the statistics are hard to say that you will get it back in 3 years, or, just be realistic about what to expect. Be like truthful and, face the reality of what your situation is. Because, my surgeon, she like says to me that, you know, I mustn't look at it that I'm a survivor, but I must look at it that I've got a, what do you call it? It's like I've got a long-term condition that you've got to maintain. It's not like, oh, I've
Mhm.
survived it and I can just move on. And because my life now, it's not like how it was before. There's some good things where I've lost a lot of weight. I'm managing my weight better now than what I did before. But then I still suffer with the nausea that just hits me randomly. And it's a lot of stress that I have in my life. So, it's trying to deal with the stress better. Um, I can't eat chocolates anymore, which is very sad. I'm like lactose intolerant now. So, it's a lot of adjustments.
are you diabetic at all or no?
No, luckily not. Yeah. Um, but also when I finished my chemo, I did go through a survival's guilt. And I don't think a lot of people talk about the survival's guilt. Like, um, like it's normal, it's natural. You will go through that.
Yeah.
You think that you didn't have it as bad as what other people are having it now, and how come I survived, but somebody else didn't survive? So you question a lot of like where you were going and, what are you going to do now?
I think
Yeah.
that's kind of common with any trauma, right? A little to some degree. And I'm not trying to
No,
belittle
no, no.
your experience, but this is a subject that we hear a lot on the podcast from, people with similar experiences. And I don't have the answers to it. I think it's kind of goes in that line of mental health. And I think I do feel like as we have made strides, at least here in the United States and globally to some degree, about mental health, there's still like a stigma around that. And, one thing that I have seen, I know a lot of people that, are comfortable discussing that aspect of it tend to thrive. So I think that's like step one is like being able to like talk about it, right? And have the
Yeah.
conversation, have the discussions. And these aren't easy discussions by any means. They're tough, right? They're tough mentally. It's tough to think about that way because mortality is something that how do I say this that makes sense for the audience? I think you understand it. Like no one lives forever. And I think
Mhm.
until you go through one of these types of experiences, like you don't get it in some ways, right? And so I
Yeah.
think like for me, not that I have ever had cancer, but I saw my dad and I saw what happened to my dad. And like, as a 38-year-old, I had a business, I had money, and you think like, hey, you're gonna live forever, man. And I think,
Yeah.
doing this job over 15 years where I've met people that I didn't think we're gonna survive. And then I've met people where I was like, that's gonna be the one. He's gonna beat it. She's gonna beat it. And they did it. So
Yeah.
nothing's promised to us, I guess, is at the end of the day and life that we have every single day, as corny as this may sound, Carmen, and this firsthand. And again, for the audience listening and watching, every day is not guaranteed, but every
No.
day is a gift, right? And that's how we have to kind of and I mean that's really hard to do, right? Like to think that way every single day with the stresses of life. Like mortgage companies, banks don't care if you get sick, right?
No.
Your job sometimes doesn't care if you get sick.
No.
Relationships, partners, friends, they don't care. Everybody's got, this is another thing that hopefully comes across. Everybody's got stuff on their plate, right? And so
Yes.
that's the other piece to this too, is like everybody's got stuff going on. And, just in that moment, it can become very hyperbole, like that we're going through this and the whole world is going through with it, but everybody's got stuff going on. So I think it's, mental health is just something, a piece that, and this comes into that survivor's guilt. I think the other piece to this, and I alluded to this a little bit before, I think this space, I've said this on the podcast, we have blinders at Project Purple. We don't worry about anyone else, but I get it. I think all cancer charities do a really poor job of talking about survival outside of the sense of asking for money.
Yes. No, I agree with you.
And I think that's something that, there's this, I've said this maybe not on the podcast, but you need money to do things. As
100%.
that's just the way the world revolves, right? Like at the end of the day, if we want to find cures for cancer, we need money, right? And
Yeah.
you have to build stories and you have to story tell. And I think some groups, and again, I don't worry about other groups, but from what I see from the surface, that there are some groups out there that maybe they do this. So it's not a knock on everyone.
Mm.
But I think like the cancer world as a whole, and this is maybe part of why there's such survivor's guilt, especially with pancreatic cancer, is like it's always doom and gloom. It's always doom and gloom. It's always doom and gloom. But I like to say, like, we've got to celebrate the successes and we've got to learn from those successes on how people can get through that. And not everybody's gonna, it's just like sports, not everybody's gonna win all the time, but we've got to learn from that. But I do get like a sense sometimes that where it's always so doom and gloomy from cancer as a whole, right?
Yeah.
And that there is a, not here to debate like this is not a serious thing, and we do need more funding and we need better treatments and we need early detection, right? More so than any disease.
Yes.
But I feel like sometimes there's just so much of a negative cloud in the space, and that I think leads a little bit to that survivor's guilt naturally. Like it's just happens because of that doom and gloom situation,
Mm.
which is unfair to the people who survive it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say from a patient advocate standpoint.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
So
Yeah.
have you found anything though that has helped like during this time, like to, or like what was it to get you out of that? I know you said like early on, like like you had this
Yeah.
survivor's guilt. Like what have you maybe done that you can share that would probably be beneficial? Maybe I'm sure, I guarantee there's a lot of people out there with the same feelings.
Yeah. No, I actually found a psychologist and I started going to a psychologist, which, it's like going to someone that doesn't have any biasness towards you, or it's just a neutral party where you can let go of everything and anything and purge. And then it's like a bouncing, like a soundboard where she'll say, okay, maybe you need to redirect yourself a bit here. Or, so it was, I'm still seeing her because she's really, really good. But you've also got to find a psychologist that speaks to you. That's where you have your aha, that makes sense. Aha, things click.
Yeah.
You do go to different people and somehow it just doesn't. So, I mean, if you go to one and it doesn't work, find somebody else. Do yourself that favor. You deserve to have that.
It's
So,
awesome. I love it.
yeah.
I've done plenty of therapy myself, so I'm a big advocate for therapy.
Yeah.
I think
Nothing
you're
wrong.
spot on. You're totally spot on. Another question here, just shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, not knowing the kind of landscape of South Africa when it comes to pancreatic cancer. I know here in the States, again, go back to the original diagnosis at 41. Now it's changed a little bit here in the States where genetic testing is required. Like if you're diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, there's been a mandate that came down 4 years ago. Actually, I think it was 2019, so about 6 years ago. I don't think it fully kind of was mandated until after COVID, just because of COVID. But I did see some recent data that, there's still a large percentage of people that aren't being genetic tested here in the States, but it is there. Let's just put it that way. And I know there's a big push here across the United States. Like if someone comes in, especially if they're young, like, hey, genetic testing is the first thing they'll do. Were you ever given that option in your journey?
No, no.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So have you looked into that to get tested potentially or no?
No.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I know the UK, so this is great. I mean, this is a great conversation to have. I know in the UK, again, from having guests on the podcast, they're still pushing. I mean, I think the UK may have just maybe it was like in the last year, it may have put that through. I know Canada, again, public healthcare system, they were able to flip the switch pretty quickly. They have that availability now for patients that are diagnosed. So that is really fascinating. I mean, that's something maybe we can talk about offline. I mean,
Yes.
genetics makes up about 10% of the cases here in the United States. So the other piece to that is one knowledge, because you have two girls, potentially a gene that could be passed along. But we also know now here in the United States, there's actually a treatment protocol that works really well for particular genetic cases. So people that are BRCA genes, BRCA one or two, there's actually a chemotherapy regimen that actually works very well with those types of tumors. And then there's other folks that are like they have ATM, which is a gene mutation that also we've had people on the podcast with this gene mutation that again have done very well with particular chemo regimens. So it's just kind of interesting. I mean, again,
Wow.
country healthcare systems are completely different. Knowing what we know here in the United States, and how we're going at it, combating it. The other piece too, just to give us I know I said in the beginning, this isn't about us, but give us a little shout out. Like we've been very heavily invested in early detection with high risk groups, because there's a lot to be learned from there, which hopefully then can open the funnel in terms of the entire population for
Yeah.
pancreatic cancer. But we have seen a large prevalence here in the United States of folks that have these genetic mutations getting the disease, and knowing that we have treatment protocols is beneficial to get those people better survival rates and higher survival rates.
I must find out about that. Because the thing is, here in South Africa, I struggled to find even just a support group or something about pancreatic cancer. I don't even think there is an organization that.
I'm not sure. We would have to double check. I mean, we're
Yeah.
part of this thing called the World Pancreatic Cancer Coalition. I just don't remember. There might be now, but I don't remember. I know there's groups in Australia, but I'm not sure if there's any in South Africa, to be honest with you.
Because I was just trying to see who locally I could like meet up to have discussions about how they went through things, but I haven't been able to find anybody in South Africa.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe offline we can talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'll be awesome.
So I've got a couple of questions here left, and then we're gonna give you an opportunity to kind of share where people watching and listening can connect with you. Maybe there is someone in South Africa that will see this and connect with you,
That'll be awesome.
possibly. Um, you mentioned your two girls a little bit. What's it been for like the family here? Especially being so young, being diagnosed, and as you mentioned, the girls were pretty young.
Yeah. It put a lot of strain on the family because everything else had to take a back seat. My health was the priority for everyone, which
Yeah.
is a great support system. But
And especially during COVID too, right?
yeah,
Like this was all like again, we forget, but like that was just it's such a
it was like
weird time.
double. It was
Yeah.
double. Yeah. And then I think he's my ex-husband now. I think he had the most strain out of everybody.
Hmm.
And I think I mean, I can't put words in his mouth, but I think it was just very difficult for him to deal with the fact that he thought I was going to die. And
Yeah.
then he decided to part ways with me when I was 5 months in remission. So
Wow.
yeah, so then I went through a divorce while still in, yeah. So that was hectic. That was really, really hectic. But I did a degree. I did my Bachelor of Commerce, yeah, human
During all
resources.
this.
Yeah, because that
Wow.
was like the one thing that was, because everybody kept on asking me, so Carmen, what is it that you regret? You know, and I sat and I thought about it, and I was like, that I didn't finish my degree, that I didn't get my degree, and then on the 18th of December, when I did my final treatment, then that week I registered with the university, and I was like, I'm going to do this. So yeah, I've had a lot of downs, but then I've had a lot of ups. So, you know,
It's awesome that you were able to get the degree through all of this. Like, and that's sometimes the, silver lining in all this. I mean, I don't know if we mentioned, we do so much running. We've had actually survivors come on. We've had a couple that, at the end of the chemo, they were like, all right, I'm going to run a marathon now. I think achieving anything, and I'm not trying to, I think
yeah,
anytime you put a goal, and listen, getting your degree is a huge deal. That's a huge time commitment. It's a big deal. So that is just awesome that you're able to do that through all of everything that was going on. Is just really inspiring. I
thank
mean,
you.
next question here, a little bit, we call them loaded, meaning that there's no right or wrong and they're thought provoking. Given what you've gone through, Carmen, at such a young age with young family, are there things that you would give? Maybe there's someone on the other side watching or listening, like I said, 41 or in their 40s that has a young family that just got this diagnosis. What advice would you give them? And it's not maybe one answer, it could be a multitude of things.
Um, Make sure that the people that your surgical team, you've got the right people, and you know, you got to trust those people. You've got to trust that your life is in their hands and they will do the best for you. In South Africa, you know, we've got some phenomenal doctors, but then we've also got not so great doctors. Um, so it's a bit of a tricky one that. Um, I think also it sounds terrible, but like get your stuff in order so that it doesn't sit on in the back of your mind the whole time, like, oh, I should have done this, or you know, just get yourself prepared. Um, yeah, and then just stick it out. Don't give up. Chemo is tough. It is tough. I mean, only after my chemo was done, my oncologist still asked me, Carmen, how did you go through all of this? Because she says that a lot of pancreatic patients actually give up because it's just so tough. And be positive. I think if you focus on the positive and what you want at the end of the day, don't focus on like, oh, the chemo's the worst. And, when you sit on all that negativity all the time, it'll just feed that demon. So,
Powerful. You hit I say this often, not often enough, but you hit the nail right on top of the head. I think that's just so powerful. I mean, given your experience and what you've just shared with us, we're almost, over 45 minutes here.
oh, wow.
Um, to never give up, but to be positive and focus on that positive. I mean, again, every day there's going to be stuff that's going to come up, and we have choice, right? Free will is like what we're given, right? And free choice. So we have a choice to look at things, from certain perspectives. And I think the positive side of things is always kind of the better side, long term, emotionally, physically, and just from a mental health aspect is just so powerful. So thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure.
My last question, and this is always the hardest. So I always preface this. This is the loaded of loaded questions. Given your experience, like what you have gone through, how do you define pancreatic cancer? What's your definition of it?
It first comes echoing death sentence, but it's not. It's not. I've overcome it, and other people can overcome it too. That's why I say just focus on the positive, focus your energy on that. Have a great support team around you. Yeah, it also changes your focus if I'll be honest with you. Before pancreatic cancer, I wasn't really focused on anything. And then from having that, it's like I got my degree. Yeah, my marriage ended, but where I am now, I'm glad I'm where I am. I've grown as a person. I've grown in so many ways. So it was a curse, but it's also a blessing in a way.
So powerful. Carmen, our last thing here, if someone watching, and maybe there's someone or listening in South Africa that wants to connect with you or our listeners, we have a vast audience and we've had people from all over the world. And now we have the South Africa. We've gone to Africa. We've got that continent checked off. I think we've got every we haven't had no, I'd have to double check. We've never had anyone on in terms of countries from Russia. But we're slowly checking off Europe. We've had Italy, the UK, Spain. But from a continent standpoint, we might have all the continents covered. This is a big one. I don't know if we had someone from South America. I have to check it. But again, vast audience, people from all over the world. Where's the best place for people to connect or follow?
Well, they can connect with me on Instagram. So my handle's Carmen Stew 2.0, 2.0.
Carmen Stew, STEW
W?
2.0.
Yeah.
Carmen, thank you so much for not only joining us all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. I know the time is a little wonky. You guys are ahead quite a bit. But really appreciate giving us the opportunity here at Project Purple to share your journey and your experience with pancreatic cancer.
Thank you for inviting me. It was awesome.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Project Purple podcast. If you like this podcast, feel free to share this podcast and make sure to subscribe to the Project Purple podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can watch this podcast and see so much more great content on our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening and watching, and that's a wrap of another episode of the Project Purple podcast. Until next time, please be safe.